Good morning, dear students. I welcome you to the National University online class. During this pandemic, I feel proud to be the part of this National University online class lecture as a resource person. Please maintain the health rules. Our subject is English. This program is for B Honors first year students. Course code 211101 and course name is English Reading Skills. Today's lecture number 8 and title of the lecture, Most Significant Literary Genres. In the last lecture, we talked about essential literary terms, and today we are going to learn about significant literary genres. And here I am, Khondogar Moshir Rahman, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Gaibandha Government College, Gaibandha. So can you recall the last class? What we talked about in the last class? The last class was about literary terms. I told you most essential literary terms we learned, like allusion, alliteration, allusion, assonance, personification, simile, metaphor. As a student of English literature, you must learn these literary terms. I told you, if you don't have good knowledge about literary terms, then you cannot understand English literary text. I mean, you will not find interest studying literature. That's why these are the basic knowledge. You must learn English literary terms. So have you done your homework? The previous class, I asked you, after giving some idea about there are so many literary terms. Literary terms are what? I told you, rhetorics are figures of speech. Actually, dress up. As we dress up, we decorate ourselves to beautify our, physical beauty. Like ornamental expressions. Literary terms are ornamental expressions, ornamental usage of language. So writers also use ornamental expressions, literary terms to decorate their language in speech or writing. So that's why literary terms are very important. So did you do the homework? Some of you, of course. What was the homework? Can you remember? Learn as many as literary terms you can, and when you are reading any text, especially poems, try to find out those literary terms in the poems and share your ideas with your friends. Then you will be benefited and you will develop your learning. Okay, some of you have done, of course, so welcome. Those who did not do the homework must do. Only then you will be benefited. I told you again and again, without doing the homework you will not be benefited from these lectures. So today's topic is, what is literature? We are going to learn about what is literature and what is genre, functions of genres, some essential literary genres or terms, and the class will be ended up with homework, giving home task. So let us see, what is literature? Do you have any idea about literature as a student of literature? I think if you are asked to say what is literature, so if we talk about literature, then what comes to our mind? Story, novel, drama, is it? Okay, so someone say literature is mirror of society. Actually, the stories, dramas, novels, poetry, everything reflects our society, our life, personal life, social life is reflected. So someone say literature is nothing but reflection of life. Someone say literature is a mirror of society. Now let us see some definition of the scholars about what is literature, what the scholars say about literature. Literature broadly refers to any collection of written or oral work, but it more commonly and narrowly refers to writings specifically considered to be an art form, especially prose fiction, drama, and poetry, in contrast to academic writing and newspapers. In recent centuries, the definition has expanded to now include oral literature, much of which has been transcribed. So, you see, as we are talking about, literature means here prose, fiction, drama, poetry. It's a written or oral. It may be written or oral, verbal. And considered to be, the literature, the earliest form of literature was oral. There was no written form of literature. And later on, when the writing was invented, alphabet was invented, writing started. So some of the oral stories were transcribed, translated into language. Literature as an art form can also include works in various non-fiction genres such as autobiography, diaries, memoir, letters, and the essay, as well as in the disciplines of history and philosophy. So, autobiography. What is autobiography? Life history of a person written by the person himself or herself. Diaries, diaries. Some of you keep diary, of course. Memoir means any memorable story of life when you are reminiscing. Letters and essays. So these are also literature, and these are fiction, non-fiction. These are non-fiction. So the genre subgroups. Non-fiction is a subgroup of literature, subgenre. So this includes autobiography, diaries, memoir, letters, and essays. Literature is classified according to whether it is poetry, prose, or drama, and such works are categorized according to historical periods or their adherence to certain aesthetic features or genre. So you see, literature sometimes named according to the historical periods. As for there is Elizabethan period, Victorian period, Restoration period. The literary period is divided in this way on the basis of historical events. Queen Elizabeth was in power in England, so that time is called Elizabethan age. When Queen Victoria was in power in England, so that is Victorian age. That's the way literary period is divided. So we talked about different, I mean definition of literature and branches of literature. So let us see what is genre. A literary genre is a type or category of literary composition. Genres may be determined by literary technique, tone, content, or even, as in the case of fiction, length. The distinctions between genres and categories are flexible and loosely defined, often with subgroups. So, genre is a category or type of literary composition, and it's the branches of literature we say as usually, but in literary language we should say genre. It's a category type, sorts. Genres may be determined how? By technique, tone, content, or even length. The distinctions between genres and categories are flexible and loosely defined, often with subgroups. The most general genres in literature are epic, tragedy, comedy, and creative nonfiction. They can all be in the form of prose or poetry. So these are the two branches of literature, two categories mainly. First, prose and poetry. All literatures goes to these two categories. Prose means without metrical rhyme scheme, without metrical structure, and poetry is with metrical structure. There is rhyme scheme. So these are the two main categories, branches of literature, two genres of literature. Additionally, a genre such as satire, allegory, or pastoral might appear in any of the above, not only as a subgenre but as a mixture of genres. Finally, they are defined by the general cultural movement of the historical period in which they were composed. As I told you, so sometimes they got a name according to the historical event or historical period of time, defined by the general cultural movement, like Reformation movement, Restoration movement was there. So they got the name Restoration period, uh, Reformation period. So literature got the name on the basis of the historical movement also. So have you got what is genre? Different types of literature, mainly poetry and prose. And this prose, there are different categories, and poetry, there are also different subgenres. That we will see here. So let's go to the next slide. Function of genre. What is the function of genre? That is important. Different genres have different roles. For example, fiction and dramatic genres help students and writers learn and improve their communication skills. So actually, sometimes some people may say, what is the use of reading novel? Or what is the use of reading drama, play? What is the benefit? Why do you read? So not only as a student of literature, students from other discipline also may read drama, may read novel. The students of science, science group, physics, chemistry, who are studying science, they also read novel. They also read drama. Why? For interest. Of course, they read for interest, but what do they develop? What is their benefit? The fiction and drama develops communication skills. That is the important things. We are reading a drama, we are reading a fiction. Actually, when we are reading properly, we are improving our communication skills. We are learning a lot of words, we are learning a lot of structures over there, expressions over there, so that help us to communicate in our everyday life. That's why reading fiction and drama is important. A poetic genre enhances imaginative and emotional power of the readers. What poems do? Poems or poetry increases our imaginative and emotional power. So if you read poems, your imaginative power will be improved and your emotional power also will be improved if you keep on reading poetry. Non-fictional texts and essays help readers develop analytical and persuasive capabilities. That's very important. You see, if you read non-fictional texts and essays like that, articles, that will help you to develop analytical and persuasive capabilities. I mean, you will be able to analyze anything, any character, any situation, any event very nicely, and you can pursue someone, something. You can make people understand. You can show arguments. That capability also, that capacity also will be improved if you keep on reading non-fictional texts and essays. Have you got it? So the importance of reading fiction and drama, the importance of reading poetry, the importance of reading non-fictional texts. So when we are reading these things, perhaps we are reading for pleasure, but actually unknowingly or subconsciously, we are this reading of fiction and drama in developing our communication skills, studying or reciting, reading poem or poetry, improving our imaginative and emotional power. On the other hand, non-fictional texts or essays is developing our analytical and persuasive capabilities. That's really interesting, isn't it? Okay, yes. However, the major function of genre is to establish a code of behavior between the writers and audience and keep the readers informed about the topics discussed or the themes presented. So, the major function of genre is to establish a code of behavior. That's also important. You see, we told you before in the previous class, can you remember that writer is a transmitter and reader is a receiver. So when a reader is reading the text of any author, so there is a development of a code of behavior between the writer and the reader. There is a liking and disliking among the readers about the writers or authors. Now, major genres of literature. Let us see. The very first and foremost genre of literature is poetry. And earliest form, I told you, earliest form of literature is poetry. In the very beginning of literature, there was no drama, no novel, no short story. Okay? And there was only poetry and verse lines. Even it was oral, no written. So poetry is a form of text that follows a meter and rhythm with each line and syllable. Poetry is mainly two types, objective and subjective. Objective poem is also again divided into two categories like narrative and dramatic. Narrative poems include ballad, epic, metrical romance, and dramatic poetry include melodrama, tragedy, and comedy. And subjective poetry include lyric. What does lyric means? That we will see lyric and definition of lyric and features of lyric. Lyric includes this type of poems. You see, elegy, sonnet, ode, dramatic monologue, hymn, epithalamion. All these belong to the same group. Lyric. All are lyric, but they have some difference. That's why their names are different. That we need to know. Before going to this topic, can you remember what is objective and subjective? We talked about in the previous class, subjectivity and objectivity. That you need to know very well. Objectivity or objective means these poems, they are written, the writer is not present in their writing. We cannot understand the writer emotions, feelings, and presence in the writing. But subjective means when the writer is present. In objective poems, writer is aloof from the writing, and subjective writing, in subjective poem, writer is very much present. After his emotions, feelings, and opinions are very much present. Distinct in this type of poems. Clear? All these poetic forms share specific features such as they do not follow paragraphs or sentences. So poetry, there is no paragraphs or sentences. They use stanzas. So in poetry, we say stanzas or lines instead. Some forms follow very strict rules of length and number of stanzas and lines, such as sonnet. Others may be free form, like Feelings Now is a written by Catherine Foreman, which is devoid of any regular meter and rhyme scheme. This poem does not follow any regular rhyme scheme or meter like other poems. It's different. Besides that, often poetry uses figurative language such as metaphor, simile, onomatopoeia, hyperbole, and alliteration to create heightened effect, to emphasize, okay, heightened effect, to make the writing, to make the poem more attractive, more lively, more lucid to the reader. Writers, I mean poets, use this type of literary terms, metaphor, simile, that we learned in the previous class. So what is metaphor, simile, onomatopoeia? Can you remember? You must learn these things, otherwise you'll not understand poem. So that's very much important to know these literary terms, because you know in part C that we are going to learn today, I mean see to the sample questions, part C. In the next class we will say, I mean part C will be there in the, not today's class, in the next class, I mean another class, I will show you part C. There is a poem, and after that poem there will be some questions. You have to analyze the figures of speech in the questions you have to describe. So you must know these literary terms, metaphor, simile, onomatopoeia, alliteration, allusions, that we talked in the other class. Second one, drama. Drama or play is a form of text that is performed on a stage in front of an audience. So drama or play is a text that is performed on a stage in front of an audience. So audience and stage important. In written text contains dialogues and stage directions. This genre has further categories such as, I mean drama is divided into two categories, comedy and tragedy. Comedy includes comedy of manners, comedy of humors, romantic comedy, restoration comedy, tragicomedy, etc. Tragedy, that is heroic tragedy, Senecan tragedy, revenge tragedy, etc. You know William Shakespeare is known as the father of English drama. His well-known plays include The Merchant of Venice, Romeo and Juliet, and Hamlet. And you must know Shakespeare is also a great poet. Greek playwrights were the pioneers in this field, such as Sophocles' masterpiece Oedipus Rex and Antigone, famous drama written by Sophocles, Greek writer, Greek dramatist. While modern dramas include Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. There is modern dramatist and George Bernard Shaw also, and as Man and Superman, Ernst and the Man are famous modern drama by George Bernard Shaw. So these are the categories and these are the dramas. Prose. Prose is a form or technique of language that exhibits a natural flow of speech and grammatical structure without metrical structure. You have a course in honors first year, Introduction to Prose, and that is divided into two subgroups, fiction and non-fictions. That we are going to learn here. What is fiction and non-fiction? What is prose? So prose is a form of technique of language that exhibits a natural flow of speech and grammatical structure without metrical structure. And that the metrical structure means there is no rhyme scheme, no rhythm that is available in poetry. But prose, there is only grammatical structure, sentence and paragraphs, no stanza and no metrical, rhyme scheme here. This type of written text is different from poetry in that it has complete sentences organized into paragraphs. Unlike poetry, prose focuses on characters and plot rather than focusing on sounds. So, what does it do? Prose focuses on characters and plot, but poetry focuses on sounds. That is the basic difference between prose and poetry. Its subgenres are fiction. Fiction includes short story, novel, romance. Non-fiction include essay, articles, pamphlet, autobiography, biography, travelogue. Travelogue means, the story, regarding journey, traveling. So that's a travelogue. Story of traveling is called travelogue. Biography means life story of a person. Autobiography, life story of a person written by that person himself or herself. Pamphlet is a short book that expresses actually any contemporary events on social events. For the correction, it may be sometimes ridiculous or satire. Articles, in journals, articles and essay, So criticism is also a subgenre, of a kind of prose. There are different types of criticism, mainly psychoanalytic criticism, sociological criticism, feminist criticism, new criticism are famous. So this is the prose. Prose means fiction, non-fiction, and criticism. These are not written in poetry or metrical. There is no metrical structure. Now, fiction, the subgenres of prose. Fiction generally is a narrative form in any medium consisting of people, events, or places that are imaginary. In other words, not based strictly on history or fact. So, that is the main point. Fiction is not strictly based on history or fact, though sometimes it is based on facts but narrated with the color of imagination. So, imagination is must. Imagination is a criterion, necessary features for fiction. In brief, fiction refers to any written narratives in prose. Look at the word fiction actually. Fiction means something imaginary, imagination. So, in brief, fiction refers to any written narratives in prose. For example, from your course, The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry, the short story is a fiction. Have you read the short story, The Gift of the Magi? Of course, some of you have read by this time. There are some other also. Arabi, there is another story, fiction, Arabi. In your syllabus, you must read all the stories yourself and try to understand and try to find out the characteristics of fictions in those stories. Non-fiction. Non-fiction is any document or content that purports in good faith to represent truth and accuracy regarding information, events, or people. So here non-fiction is accuracy regarding information, events, and or people. Non-fiction content may be presented either objectively or subjectively and may sometimes take the form of a story. Non-fiction. For example, Office Studies by Francis Bacon, it is in your syllabus, that is a non-fiction. I Have a Dream by Martin Luther King Jr., that is also a non-fiction. So now we are going to learn what is lyric. Different subgenres of poetry, and that is very much important. As I told you in part C, there will be a question, poem, and you have to elaborate, you have to explain, evaluate the poem as a lyric. That's why you must know what is lyric and features of lyric. That's important. So lyric is a short poem expressing personal or subjective thoughts and feelings of a single speaker. It is identical to a song sung with a lyre. So lyre is a musical instrument. Main features of a lyric are: it is shorter than epic or mock epic or metrical romance. A single speaker speaks in it. So single speaker, that is important in this poem. It's a short poem. There is a single speaker. It expresses personal thoughts and feelings. Personal, not impersonal. Personal thoughts and feelings. It possesses the rhythm of a song, a musical quality. So it possesses the rhythm of a song. So musical quality is a must. Its diction is lucid and soft sounding. Choice of words. So no difficult words is here. Soft sounding words is here. Okay, simple words. Every lyric deals with a single emotion, which is usually stated in the very first line of the lyric. Intensity is also another characteristic of a lyric. So intensity, severity. Spontaneity is the backbone of any lyric. Spontaneity must be there in any lyric. So these are the features, okay, of a lyric poem. And these features you must learn, because when you will evaluate a poem, if you are asked to evaluate a poem as a lyric, you have to look for these features in that poem. If you find these features in that poem, then you can say that's a lyric. Okay. So now what is sonnet? Another important topic for your syllabus, part C. Sometimes you will be asked to evaluate the poem as a sonnet. So you must know what is sonnet and its features like lyric. A sonnet is a lyric poem of 14 iambic pentameter lines. There are three main types of sonnets: Shakespearean sonnet, that is also known as English sonnet; Spenserian sonnet; and Petrarchan sonnet, that is also known as Italian sonnet. All sonnets are highly structured with strict rules about meter, rhyme, length, and other features. So there are three types of sonnets. All sonnets have the following three features in common: they are 14 lines long, they have a regular rhyme scheme, they have a strict metrical construction, usually iambic pentameter. So iambic pentameter, pentameter in iambic, unstressed and stressed syllable, iambic pentameter lines. Iambic pentameter means that each line has 10 syllables in 5 pairs, and that each pair has a stress on the second syllable. First one is unstressed and second one is stressed syllable. So these are the basic features of every sonnet. There must be 14 lines. There have been a regular rhyme scheme, and they have a strict metrical constructions, usually iambic pentameter. So look at these three types of sonnet, how they are different from each other. A Shakespearean sonnet named after William Shakespeare is divided into three quatrains or 4 lines stanzas followed by a couplet. So three quatrains, I mean 4 line stanzas is called a quatrain. So three quatrains, 4 line stanzas that is followed by a couplet, 2 lines at the end, 2 lines there. Its rhyme scheme is A B A B C D C D E F E F G G. The first line in the first quatrain rhymes with the third line, both are A. The second line rhymes with the fourth, which are both B. So that is the rhyme scheme. You need to memorize the rhyme scheme of Shakespearean sonnet, every sonnet, because when you will be asked to evaluate the poem as a sonnet, the poem belongs to which category, you have to determine that looking at the rhyme scheme. That's why you have to remember it. A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. This rhyme scheme for Shakespearean sonnet. Now look at Spenserian sonnets. Named after Edmund Spenser, like Shakespearean sonnets, are divided into three quatrains and a couplet. But the rhyme scheme is different here. Here the rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B, B, C, B, C, C, D, C, D, E, E. So you see the rhyme scheme is different from Shakespearean one. Petrarchan sonnets named after Francesco Petrarchus have 2 sections or stanzas. Here no three stanzas. Here octave and sestet. You see no quatrains here. Octave, first 8 lines of Petrarchan sonnet is called octave and the last 6 lines are called sestet. The rhyme scheme of the octave of a Petrarchan sonnet is A B B A A B B A, and that of sestet is C D C D C D C D C D or C D E C D E. Is it clear? That you need to remember rhyme scheme. That means ending sound of the line. Which line's ending sound match with which line. So we mark the rhyme scheme using this alphabet A B C D like that. So Petrarchan sonnet octave and sestet. First 8 lines A B B A A B B A, and last 6 lines C D C D C D or C D E C D E. John Milton, William Wordsworth, and few other English poets have used Petrarchan form in their sonnets. On His Blindness, you have read that one, On His Blindness, written by John Milton. So it is Petrarchan sonnet. It is in the syllabus. You have to read it for part C in reading skills also. Food and its classification. That just we talked about iambic pentameter. Perhaps you could not understand. Now we will see what is food and the different types of food here. It's not the foot of, I mean, measuring the length. It's the foot of poems. So what is it? The literary device foot is a measuring unit in poetry, which is made up of stressed and unstressed syllables. The stressed syllable is generally indicated by an oblique line like this, whereas the unstressed syllable is represented by a curved up line like this. Meter, what is meter? Meter is the arrangement of or combination of feet. I mean, stressed and unstressed syllables together make a meter in a verse line. Later, these meters are joined for the composition of a complete poem. Therefore, a foot is the formative unit of the meter. Clear? Have you got it? Look at this example. If music be the food of love, play on. Here are how many feet? First syllable if, second syllable mu. So this is 1 foot. First one is unstressed. The red mark one is stressed. If you count using the slash sign, I have divided over here. How many foot is there? Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So penta. So 5 feet is there. So pentameter line. And the line is iambic. Why? In every foot, the first syllable is unstressed and second one is stressed. That's why this is iambic. We will see different types of foot now in the next slide. So look at in this line, there are 5 feet each consisting of an unstressed, I mean black marked one, if, seek, the syllable followed by a stressed red marked one like mu, be, food, love, and on. So this is iambic pentameter line. Clear about iambic? Iambic means a syllable, a foot consisting one unstressed and one stressed syllable. The first one is stressed and second one is stressed. That you need to remember. Now see, different types of food in English literature, I mean in poems. Sorry. Look, I am combination of unstressed and stressed syllable. It is shown over here with this one, da, dum. So da is unstressed, dum is the capital one is stressed. So first syllable is unstressed, second one is stressed. That is I am or iambic. Trochee means first one is stressed, second one unstressed. Spondy means two syllables are stressed together, dum dum. So two are stressed, no unstressed for spondy. Anapest, combination of two unstressed and a stressed. So there are three syllables in a food. First two are unstressed and the third one is stressed. The name is anapest. What is dactyl? Combination of stressed and two unstressed. So first one is stressed and the last two are unstressed. That is dactyl. Amphibrach, combination of unstressed, stressed and unstressed. You see, mixture. So first one unstressed, middle one is stressed and the third one unstressed. In that case, the food name would be amphibrach. Ferric, combination of two unstressed syllables. So ferric is the opposite of spondy. You see, spondy means two stressed syllable. On the other hand, ferric means combination of two unstressed syllables. Clear? These are the basic food. There may be some other food in English literature, but you need to know at least this food when you will analyze a poem. And I mean, speak about rhyme scheme of a poem, food meter. You need to know these classes of food. There are two types of meter which are known as rising meter and falling meter. Each type of meter uses different type of food. As the rising meter goes from unstressed syllables to stressed ones, they mainly use iamb and anapest feet. On the contrary, the falling meters go from stressed syllables to unstressed ones and mostly use trochee and dactyl feet. So meter, I mean rising. A rising meter and falling meter. Rising means going from low sound to high sound when unstressed is to stressed. On the other hand, falling means going high position to low position, high sound to low sound. That is stressed to unstressed. That is the thing. So anapest fit. So according to the meter, a poet use the foot, iamb or trochee like that. But in sonnet, usually we find most of the foot are iambic and lines are pentameter lines. Now, what is elegy and its feature? That is another important item of, I mean, poems or poetry. This is the genre of lyric poems. It's also a lyric poem. Elegy, a lyric poem, mourning for the death of an individual or lamenting over a tragic event. The famous English elegies are Milton's Lycidas, Shelley's Adonais, and Gray's Elegy written in a country churchyard. So these are the famous English elegies. So elegy means a lyric poem, mourning, expressing sadness for the death of an individual. It may be an individual or any event, tragic event. Characteristics of an elegy. It is a type of lyric and focuses on expressing emotions or thoughts. So what are the characteristics? It is a type of lyric and focuses on expressing emotions or thoughts. One thing I told you, that means every poem is a lyric, you see, so you must know the features of a lyric. So what are the features of a lyric? All those features are present here in this elegy, and all the features of lyric are also present in sonnet, because sonnet is also a lyric. That's why the features we discussed before of lyric that you keep in mind when you are evaluating an elegy or a sonnet. It is a type of lyric and focuses on expressing emotions or thoughts. It uses formal language and structure. It may mourn the passing of life and beauty or someone dear to the speaker. It may explore questions about nature of life and death or immorality of soul. It may express the speaker's anger about death. So these are the features, I mean characteristics of an elegy. And besides this, of course, those characteristics, I mean, that we found in, it's a short poem, it's a, I mean, the diction is very lucid, like, of course, it's an elegy, that's why diction would be very lucid. Three elements are found in a traditional elegy. These three elements are available. in a traditional elegy. Firstly, it begins with mourn, a grief at the loss of something or someone. In the second stage, the poet shows admiration, listing qualities and impressive deeds in the person's lifetime. The poem then moves to the third stage of consolidation. This last element may be more religious. So these are the three elements available in a traditional elegy. It begins with mourn, a grief, sorrow at the loss of something or someone. Secondly, the poet shows admiration, listing qualities and impressive deeds of the person's lifetime who died. The poem then moves to the third stage of consolidation. This last element may be more religious, important. An elegy may be of different kinds: personal elegy, impersonal, or pastoral elegy. So, elegy is also different types. It may be personal elegy, or it may be impersonal or pastoral elegy. What is pastoral elegy? Do you have the idea, the meaning of pastoral? You know the meaning of the word pastoral? Literal meaning, I mean dictionary meaning. Pastoral is related to countryside, rural. So look at the definition of pastoral elegy. A pastoral elegy represents both the poet and the one he mourns for, who is usually also a poet, as shepherds. In pastoral elegy, this setting is, of course, in this type of elegy, setting is a rural setting, I mean countryside setting. In pastoral elegies like Lycidas, Milton mourns in the grief of a shepherd. So Lycidas, Milton's poem, it's an example of pastoral elegy. So these are the important, literary terms also here. Food, that is very important, you need to know for reading skills, part C. When you will be asked to analyze a poem, evaluate a poem, and you must know the features of sonnet, what is sonnet and its features, classification of sonnet, and what is lyric and features of lyric. These two items are very much important. Side by side, you know, different genres and the functions of genres. Today we have tried to talk about what is literature, what is genre, and function of genre. First we talked about what is literature, then we talked about what is genre. Just have a sum up of the class, and we talked about functions of genre, what type of genre develop, which sides, communication skills is developed by fiction and drama. Poetry develops our imaginative and emotional power. Non-fiction, text and essays develop our analytical and persuasive capabilities. We also talked about major genres of literature, like what is poetry, different types of poetry, what is drama, different types of drama. We talked comedy, tragedy, and we have seen what is prose and the subgenres of prose, fiction, non-fiction, and criticism. And fiction, non-fiction is there. Later on, we talked about features of lyric. That is very much important. You must learn these two things, especially from this lecture. What is lyric and features of lyric? What is sonnet, features of sonnet? And what is elegy and features? Of course, different type of sonnets you have to read, because you have to evaluate poem as a sonnet, and you have to learn these food, of course, different types of food, iambic, trochee, spondy, at least 4 or 5 types you should memorize, and try to find out this in the poems when you are reading the poem. So what is elegy? That is also important. Now we are at the end of the lecture today. So have your homework. Learn as many as you can, the literary genres. Try to analyze those genres in your reading text, especially while reading poems. You must share your learning with your friends and peers. One thing you should notice by this time, again and again, I am telling you to share your learning with your friends and peers. That is very much important, because at this moment, though you are not getting regular classes, but somehow you have contact with your friends. So share your learning with your friends. That will develop your, learning. That will increase your skills. Reading skills, learning skills, and reading skills also. So after doing your work, you must share your learning with your friends. So why you have to learn so many genres? I told you have to learn these genres because when you read any text, you have to evaluate it. As a student of English literature, you are a critic, you are an editor. You have to criticize, you have to make critical appreciation of any text. So what is the generic form of the poem? You might be asked. What is the generic form? This poem belongs to which genre? Like, shall I compare thee? written by William Shakespeare. Sonnet 18, it is, So this the generic for genre is it's sonnet, Shakespearean sonnet. So reading the poem, looking at the structure of the poem, you have to name the poem according to their structure. That's why you must know these literary genres with their features, of course. I tried I've tried to give you some knowledge. So there are so many other genres, and for this I suggested in the previous class some books. So you will read those books. So at the end, again, thank you for attending the class. Stay home, stay safe, pray for all. Have a nice time.